What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So just yesterday, we were talking about that leaked email that appeared to point to a Nintendo Direct being planned out for next week. However, what a difference 24 hours makes, as after a couple of announcements, now there seems to be some doubt on that idea, to the point where people are even wondering, wait, is there going to be a Direct at all this month? We'll go over that here today and maybe have some good news for you. Also, we are going to be talking about Summer Games Fest. A lot of announcements were made. Unfortunately, it didn't seem to set the world on fire. And we're also going to be talking about a controversial announcement from Sony. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here. I'm here every weekday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, getting all of the gaming news together for you. And we're going to start today with Devolver Digital, as they had their own showcase yesterday. And yeah, basically the weirdest show of the year, as usual, but they had some pretty cool games there. One in particular that really stood out to me, but we'll start here at the top. We have Cult of the Lamb, that's coming out August 11th, 2022. Angerfoot, that's just release dates 2023. It even says Angerfoot is an ultra-fast blast of shattered doors, broken bones, and crumbled energy drinks. There's also a demo, and it's wish listed up on Steam. The one that really caught my eye was the Plucky Squire, and it wasn't just me. This actually kind of blew up online, and I think a lot of it had to do with not only the idea, but the art style. It starts out on like a normal story, like book. You open up and your character's going through. It looks like an action adventure style game, and then your character jumps off the page of the book, and the art style just completely shifts. What a cool looking game here. Gonna be keeping an eye on this one. That's coming out 2023 on all platforms. And then we have Skate Story, which is a game I've been keeping up on because, again, the premise a bit out there, but it's another skateboarding game, and I do like to check those out. You're actually skating as a demon made of glass through the underworld. That is coming out in 2023. Overall, a pretty, yes, weird showcase from Devolver, but actually one that had some pretty good games there. Certainly going to be keeping an eye on that Squire game going into next year. Also, we did have Microsoft talk quite a bit about their plans for the future of Xbox, and yeah, that has to do with streaming as well. That's one of their big pillars for Game Pass, is the idea that you can access these games without necessarily needing a very expensive box under your entertainment center. In this case, they are indeed partnering with Samsung to bring that experience to their TVs. They put this up over on news.xbox.com, bringing the Xbox app to Samsung 2022 smart TV. This means hundreds of games in our Game Pass Ultimate library and Fortnite without a subscription, which is actually pretty important, as Microsoft has mentioned that Fortnite has drawn a lot of traffic to like Game Pass and cloud streaming, as obviously you don't need a system to do so. It's something that's a bit easier, more pick up and play, especially if you're not at home, but you have a stable internet connection in that case. But according to them, it's brought in many people who have not tried game streaming before with Xbox. But the idea is, if you have a Samsung smart TV, they say 2022, I guess, for the year, you'll be able to sync up a Bluetooth controller and then just access your hub of games through Game Pass. And that's going to be starting June 30th. It'll be an Xbox app from the Samsung Gaming Hub. So makes sense for Microsoft to essentially tap into a market that's already established with Samsung TVs. We talked about that Keystone, that little streaming stick. They still have to sell it to you. You may already have a Samsung TV in your house that would be compatible with this, and if you have a Bluetooth controller of some kind, doesn't just have to be Xbox, it could indeed be PlayStation, you'd be able to stream games through it even if you don't have a system hooked up to that TV. Oh, and we do have that Xbox Games Showcase this Sunday. I will be streaming it, but it looks like some stuff's starting to leak out. This one, not like a massive game reveal, but it is DLC for what's become one of Microsoft's most popular games in the last couple of years, that being Forza Horizon 5. You can see this tweet from Wario64. First Forza Horizon 5 expansion is another Hot Wheels theme, according to an updated banner on Steam. Link to it, but that listing is now gone for that add-on bundle. But them going back to Hot Wheels isn't surprising. They had that for Forza Horizon 3. I remember Lego specifically with Horizon 4, but I think they did Hot Wheels there as well. But, I mean, it was fun. It's an interesting idea. It's off the wall, leans into the arcadey nature of Forza Horizon, that entire series. So, yeah, I'll be checking out the Hot Wheels DLC when it does indeed go to Forza Horizon 5. And, guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the controversial announcement from Sony. This was made at the end of Summer Games Fest, and we'll be going through all the different titles announced during Summer Games Fest, but I wanted to separate this one specifically because we have heard about it before, but when it was announced, really blew up online with a lot of conversation around the thing existing in the first place, and also the price, and that is Last of Us Part 1, this being an entire remake from the ground up of the original Last of Us that released on the PS3 and was then remastered on the PS4 and now heading to the PlayStation 5. However, the PS5 already has technically the remastered version that was released on the PS4. The PS5 is completely backwards compatible with PS4 titles. Either way, we did have an entire trailer that was released for it, and they said the combat is redone, which does appear that it's going to be like what we've had in Last of Us Part 2, which is great because it's much better in terms of combat and the gameplay for Part 2 versus what we had with that remaster on the PS4. New AI and animation, so again, another thing that will be vastly improved over that remaster. In fact, something that was mentioned by Neil Druckmann is they wanted to go back and create, as they say, the definitive version of The Last of Us that wasn't hampered by the technology at the time back in 2013 on that PS3. It will be at 60 FPS, include the DLC. It's coming out September 2nd on the PlayStation 5, and it will go to PC later on. But the part that really seemed to catch everyone off guard is when they saw the price for Last of Us Part 1. It is up on PlayStation Direct Store, and it actually had leaked out prior to Summer Games Fest. And it's a shame because this was what was closing out the show. It was like the big announcement, hey, Sony's showing up with a new game for this year. Well, kind of new game, right? A remake. But either way, here's the sales page for it. And yeah, Last of Us Part 1 is $70. And I mean, the $70 price point shouldn't surprise anyone anymore with Sony. They have obviously shown that's just their price going forward now. And then they also have like the Firefly Edition. That's $100, which, by the way, it says it's out of stock. I guess it just sold out then at this time of recording. But $70 for Last of Us Part 1, yeah, that's a sticking point for people right now online from what I'm seeing. And I will admit, if I wasn't getting the game for the podcast and the channel and talking about it, I'd probably be like, you know what, maybe I'll wait a bit, see if it does drop in price, because I played The Last of Us on the PS3 when it released. I played it again on the PS4 through the remaster, and it's like, do I get it again on the PS5, even though there's technically a working version of it already there? And then on top of that, technically it has less content than the PS4 version because that had multiplayer to it, but this one is $10 more than that $60 version that had released. And yeah, again, certainly a situation that's garnering up a lot of conversation online. I will say visually, looks significantly better, and if it does have, as they are saying, the combat and gameplay that we experienced in Last of Us Part 2, which was a very strong point of that game, the plot details and everything aside, that, again, very controversial part of that game, I think it will be a much better experience, and the fact that they have that HBO series coming up for Last of Us, I mean, it makes sense. They want some sort of game to put next to it, and there are probably a lot of people who will watch the HBO special or HBO series and have not played the game at all. And oh, look, there it is on the PlayStation 5. I guess I'll pick it up and see what the game was all about. But let me know what you think about this one. $70 for Last of Us Part 1, a game that will now have been released for the third time in less than a decade. Next up, let's talk about that interesting update for the Nintendo Direct situation. There's a lot of people who are hoping there's a Direct coming up because, I mean, let's be real, this is normally when we see E3 season coming up, and we are missing some of the hype right now, aren't we? I mean, Summer Games Fest, like I said, didn't set the world on fire, and now people are looking towards Xbox Showcase and Capcom Showcase, which we'll talk a bit about more later on. But looking at next week, that was when people were speculating that there would be a Direct, mostly because of that email that had been leaked out on Reddit and then eventually deleted and all of this. But again, the internet doesn't forget, and there were screenshots of it with the contrast moved around, and we could see that it was neon white, which was coming out next week. The only issue right now is that game was actually announced at Summer Game Fest. They had a new trailer with the release date and all of this there. That coming out June 16th. Okay, well, what's the other game people were looking at? Well, TMNT Shredder's Revenge. That had the database update, and it looked like it was poised for a June 16th release, so maybe that could be like an announcement shadow drop kind of thing there. Well, that was also announced at Summer Game Fest, which kind of leaves everything in an awkward spot for the whole idea of, oh, these games are coming out next week, there has to be an event to announce them at. Well, they just found their event, it was Summer Game Fest. And when I say, I mean, the hype and anticipation levels right now are super high for a Nintendo Direct. I'm not kidding. Like just yesterday, on several forums and everything, people got really excited because Bayonetta 3's listing moved around on the Nintendo store. Actually moved to the top, and I saw Nintendo Life even had like a screenshot of it. Basically, it jumped next to Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and Pokemon Violet and Scarlet and Splatoon 3 and essentially any of the games coming out in 2022, making everyone think, oh wow, this thing is about to be dated. And yeah, I hope it's going to be dated soon. It's June. This game's supposed to be coming out this year. So they may want to figure out exactly when it's coming out. That shouldn't be too surprising, though. It's just we are really to that point where everyone's like, oh, where's the Direct? When's it going to happen? Because now the things that people thought had leaked it didn't actually do that. So the question is, will there be a Direct in June? Yes, there'll be a Direct in June. But when is that Direct going to happen? That's the better question, because I don't necessarily think it's next week. Could be. Sure, they could show up on Monday or Tuesday and say, hey, it's on Wednesday. Stop by and check out 40 minutes of games coming up in the 2022 and then a little bit in the 2023. But Nintendo can basically do it whenever they want. Maybe they want to have it closer to when that Fire Emblem Warriors game is coming out, and they can have a little marketing push right there at the end with the demo in mind. But sure, they could wait till like the final week of June to have this Direct. But I do believe, yes, there is a Direct for this month. It's just might not be when you would have thought going into June, especially with the idea of Nintendo lining up for E3 when they normally would. There's no E3 this year, so who knows what Nintendo's about to do. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Summer Game Fest. It ran about an hour and 45 minutes, and there were indeed a lot of things here. There just wasn't that massive reveal that I think people are going into it hoping for. Again, we're normally going into E3 time for the year, where hype levels are through the roof, expectations are really high. There's no E3. Oh, wait, there's Summer Game Fest. Let's focus on that right now with our hype levels. So the fact that there wasn't that ridiculous reveal here, I think is kind of letting people down, because looking up and down the list of games here, it's just fine, which doesn't really line up with the E3 hype levels. Anyway, let's run down all of the different announcements here, and we'll kind of talk about a few of them as we go. Starting with Street Fighter 6, Guile had his debut gameplay trailer here, so they showed off some of the super moves and everything, and I think Street Fighter 6 is shaping up to look really, really good. And again, I'm not a big fighting game person, but occasionally, like a Street Fighter 4, for example, will have come out, and I play around with that, and it was fun. So I think I am going to check out Street Fighter 6. Definitely a huge departure from Street Fighter 5, at least so far. Again, they have to still launch the game in 2023. Then we had Aliens Dark Descent. The CGI trailer was pretty good. Then they showed the gameplay, and it was way different. It was like top-down, isometric, squad-based gameplay. That's coming in 2023. Not what I was expecting when they were first showing that trailer, by the way. They showed like 2 or 3 seconds of the gameplay. So there you go. Callisto Protocol, one of the highlights of this entire show. Again, December 2nd. We already had known it was coming out then, but they did show us gameplay. Looks scary, looks extremely violent, absolutely brutal. It has like this kind of this power where he's picking these enemies up and throwing them around and stuff. They did show off some of the limbs breaking off as you're shooting them, so there'll be some strategy involved there, I'm sure. And it looks like you do have those character-specific deaths if you die in a certain area or during a certain event, as they ended with your main character getting crushed into a machine. But yeah, definitely something that Dead Space fans will want to take a look at here with the Callisto Protocol. Saw Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. This was basically them playing through a good chunk of a level. It did go on probably longer than it needed to, although I'm sure Activision dropped a nice check here for this time slot. I will at least say, while it looked like just more Call of Duty, it looked really good. Like, we're getting near photorealistic results from some of these Call of Duty games now, with Modern Warfare 2 certainly showing off what Infinity Ward's able to do here. One of the surprising reveals is Flashback 2. I did not see that one coming. That's winter 2022. Witchfire. This is a magic fantasy first-person shooter. It's going to have early access soon. Then we had Fort Solace, and they were trying to describe it as best they could after the trailer. It's a space thriller game with exploration, very narrative-driven. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Routine. Apparently this was rebooted after 10 years. It showed a robot finding you and then kind of just taking you out. All right. We have The Rock, who does a cameo. And when I say cameo, I mean literally it looks like a cameo from the website, where he realized he had to do it, and he was at the gym and he was like, all right, let's film this thing. And it was for a Black Adam trailer. So there you go. Outriders World Slayer trailer. We had that one. Nintendo Switch commercial. That was Nintendo's presence. Mostly were just advertisements I guess they paid for. Fall Guys Season 1 trailer. Stormgate. It's a real-time strategy. It's coming out 2023 for the beta. High Water. It's an adventure strategy game. The world appears to be underwater or something. That's what I heard there. That's coming out 2022. Unfortunately, Replaced was not there. This has to do with the situation in Ukraine and Russia, which is unfortunate because Replaced looks really cool. We already went over in a previous Newswave that had been pushed to next year, so we're going to keep an eye on that one because that game really looks like it has a lot of potential. We had American Arcadia. It looks like they turned the Truman Show into a game here. And then we had Goat Simulator 3, that's fall 2022. Marvel Midnight Suns, that showed Spider-Man and Venom being part of it. And actually the Hulk as well, that's October 7th. There was no Switch logo. Turns out the Switch version is coming later. Remember, this is kind of the Tactics XCOM card game thing. So again, we'll see more about this one as it gets closer to its launch, October 7th. Cuphead, the Delicious Last Course DLC, June 30th. Neon White, June 16th. Midnight Fight Express, August 23rd. Warframe, Duvari Paradox. And we had Honkai Star Rail. That's a free-to-play tactical role-playing game. That's coming soon. Then Zenless Zone Zero. And then we have another highlight of the show, TMNT Shredder's Revenge, Casey Jones, and 6-player co-op online and offline play. This game looks incredible. And it's out next week, June 16th. I'm on board immediately, also hitting Game Pass day one. So, I mean, if you have Game Pass, you gotta check this one out. I will be checking out there, and I'm also going to get the physical version on the Switch. I'm all in with TMNT. It looks great. Humankind, that's coming to consoles. That's Sean's AAA Nights game there. One Piece Odyssey. They didn't have a date for it, but they kept the year 2022, showed off some of the game itself. For One Piece fans, this is probably really exciting. Soul Hackers 2 had a spot. Then we had Capcom Arcade Stadium 2. That's July 22nd. Mario Strikers Battle League had a trailer. Then we had Metal Hellsinger. That demo's now live. That's out September 15th. Interesting idea, by the way, with a rhythm-based first-person shooter. The Quarry is out today. It's a spiritual successor to Until Dawn. Then we had a look at Nightingale and Saints Row Boss Factory demo. That lets you kind of design your character ahead of the game's release. That's out now. Warhammer Darktide. That's coming out September 13th. Layers of Fears. That's being, I guess the Layers of Fear games remade on Unreal Engine 5. This from Bloober Team. I just wrote down not Silent Hill in all caps on the notes here. That's early 2023. Gotham Knights, they showed off the Nightwing trailer, again, October 25th. And then we had some talk about Last of Us. We already went over the Last of Us Part 1, but they talked a bit about the HBO show, which they had a still there showing off the different characters with Joel and Ellie. And then they talked about Last of Us multiplayer. It's now a standalone game. It'll have new cast of characters. It's going to be its own story, which they're kind of weaving into the game itself. Big world, and they'll have more info in 2023, which I do like the idea of it basically growing into its own thing as opposed to being attached to The Last of Us Part 2. It really sounds like this is going to be a big-time project for Naughty Dog, so the fact that we see Sony talking about all these live service games, yeah, I'm curious how they're going to approach The Last of Us Online, I guess. I'm still trying to figure out what they're going to call it. Will it be a playoff of factions title or something just completely different? Will it be still like PvP or will they have PvE elements where it's kind of like Division-esque? A lot of questions. They said 2023, so we'll keep an eye on this one. Overall, though, with Summer Games Fest, it was just fine. That was kind of it, which in the landscape of E3 hype levels right now, it's going to be kind of lower on a lot of people's charts. So, unfortunately, didn't really hit for a lot of people. There was a lot of stuff there, clearly, a lot of gameplay that they showed for certain parts, but some of the CG trailers weren't the best representation of some of those games. But either way, there we go. Another year, another Summer Game Fest. So we'll see what happens next year with it. Apparently, Jeff is going to do, he said, a digital and physical event for 2023. I'm curious how that one plays out. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, give Summer Game Fest a grade, and it looks like C at 50%, then we have B, D, and F all at 15%, and then A at 4%, and that's exactly what I'm saying, right in the middle, average. C, 50%. I mean, forgettable for a lot of people. No big, massive reveal. And I mean, to be fair, Jeff did say temper expectations, while then also hyping up the show. So Jeff's kind of walking this tightrope. He wants you to tune in, but he doesn't want you to tune in with expectations that are through the roof, or in this case, E3 levels of hype. So at least I guess he's coming back next year. I think E3 needs that in-person event again, but I am curious, are you starting to miss E3 after what we saw here with Summer Games Fest? Let me know. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from MB saying, hopefully Pragmata and Street Fighter 6 are shown at the Capcom Showcase with RE4 Remake. Thought God of War Ragnarok was going to be delayed as with the lack of marketing and what the reports and devs have shown. So not too surprised here was banking on that being the case. So with God of War Ragnarok, I saw Jason Schreier mention that there's another source saying it has not been delayed. So I'm still Team 2022, okay? At least, again, cross my fingers for God of War Ragnarok. Really would like to play that game. But as for Capcom, I actually think they could have a pretty good showcase. I think it's going to be quietly good, as in there's no expectations going into it, but then they maybe do show something with Pragmata. Maybe they show some gameplay of RE4 Remake, and it really blows people away. And hey, they have another character reveal for Street Fighter 6. People seem to like Guile being revealed there, even though we had all the stuff leak out. So either way, I think Capcom can at least have an interesting show overall. And here's hoping God of War Ragnarok has a state of play sometime soon, because you feel like if they're going to have it come out in October now, because Last of Us Part 1 is September, they might want to get going with it so they can get that release date out there. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was the whole Nintendo Direct rumor situation right now. Are you getting a little concerned that there won't be a Direct next week or even the week after, or even all of June? Let me know about that one. And then also, what about Last of Us Part 1? A remake of a game from 2013, and then of course going to the PS4 and now to the PS5 at $70. Do you think that price point is a bit out there? Thanks guys for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time for Newswave.